if someone is deported by accident, that they have no responsibility for them once they are in the custody of a foreign government.
45% say we're on the right track compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track.
On this episode of CNN Disproving CNN, once again, Democrats are still trying to push the narrative that everyday Americans, they might be afraid of getting deported, and what if they get sent to a foreign nation and then they can't get released? Please leave your comments down below. Have you ever been afraid while in Walmart you're going to get deported to El Salvador or anywhere else? I'm gonna leave it at that. Enjoy the video because this gets really funny.
I've seen some people look at this and say they're worried that the stance of this administration when it comes to this is that if someone is deported by accident, that they have no responsibility for them once they are in the custody of a foreign government. What would you say to that?
Well, they're in the custody of El Salvador. He's an El Salvadoran national. He was born in El Salvador. El Salvador has him in custody, and El Salvador decide what happened to him. I mean, again, the El Salvadoran president made it clear he's not going to release him. So again, I'm going to go back. The DOJ, they can fight this out in the courts. As I'm not a part of that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a prosecutor. So we'll let the courts, decide what the next steps will be.
Even though it was a U.S. immigration judge who said the one place he can't go is El Salvador. I mean, he could have been deported literally anywhere else.
Again, we keep going back and
All right, I have to point this out. I have been reacting to CNN clips for a while now. This is a common tactic from Caitlin Collins. She will bring somebody on from the Trump administration and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But then she will ask them questions that have nothing to do with their actual job or try to pin them against the Trump administration to make them all look bad. But she always forgets, when you bring on experts like Tom Homan, this is what happens.
Back, but again, that was years ago. Country conditions were different. That gang no longer exists in El Salvador. He had been designated a terrorist since that time. 2 different federal judges said he's an MS-13 member. A police department said he's an MS-13 member. ICE data shows he's an MS-13 member. El Salvador says he's an MS-13 member. As you know, MS-13 has been designated terrorist. The case says that the facts of the case have changed since that first decision. So again, I'll leave it up to the DOJ to argue that case in court, but that is where I stand, and that's my belief.
And honestly, I have yet to find a Democrat who has an actual good response or a good case to all of these accusations other than, well, the court did say 9-0, so he shouldn't be down there.
Why is Trump focusing on immigration? Let me just tell you, this is where Trump wants to focus. Pretty please, with a cherry on top. Why is that? Look at Trump's net approval rating on immigration. Compare where we are now, compare where we were at this point in his first term. In his first term, he was underwater at minus 12 points. Look at where he is today. He's actually above water. This is one of his strongest issues at plus 1 point. And more than that on the net approval for him on this issue has stayed steady in the positive. This is an area where Donald Trump wants to focus because the bottom line is this is an area in which the American people, at least the bare majority of them, seem to like what he's doing.
I just love this. Caitlin Collins trying to talk about a talking point no one's ever heard of, and then you have actual polls and stats that say, well, actually, the majority of Americans do like Donald Trump. Only on CNN do they disprove their own talking points. But because of you guys, we have an awesome sponsor, and you might be able to win $30,000 cash and a Tesla Cybertruck. Check this out. Alright, this video is sponsored by 1775 Coffee Company. Check this out. Imagine winning a prize worth over $100,000 just for drinking coffee. A brand new Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash could be yours, but this is your last week to enter. It ends April 20th. 1775 Coffee is fueling the giveaway, and every dollar you spend equals an entry. No hoops, no selling your data to some tech giant that thinks free speech is a threat, just small batch, single origin coffee, roasted weekly, and brewed with backbone. It's the official coffee of free thinkers, hard workers, and the Rumble crowd that's more uncancelable than your uncle's Easter rant about globalist and the price of eggs. If Rumble is the platform for uncensored truth, 1775 is the coffee that keeps it caffeinated. Go to 1775coffee.com, use promo code T-SPLY, T-SPLY, all capital letters like you see on the screen, to save 15%, and enter before the giveaway ends. A Cybertruck, $30,000, and coffee that kicks harder than CNN's ratings crash. Don't wait. Someone's walking away with this prize, and with 1 week left, it could be you.
And you've shown the impact on how people feel about his handling of the economy and what he's been doing. So let's stay here with this. Compare where he is on immigration to where Biden was. We know that this was why he leaned into immigration so much.
Yes, this is a big reason why. So take a look here. This is on immigration. What track are we on? The right track or the wrong track? Look in December. Look at the percentage who said we were on the wrong track. 62% of Americans when Joe Biden was in office, compared to just 14% who said that we were on the right track. Flash forward to April. Well, hello. 45% say we're on the right track compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track. So in a big switcheroo from where we were back in January, the plurality of Americans say that the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy. Back in December when Joe Biden was president, the vast majority said that we were on the wrong track. Again, this points out that on the whole, Americans like where we're going on immigration policy under Donald Trump, which is very different from where we were under Joe Biden.
And again, I have a simple question because Republicans are just saying this is common sense. When you go to the store and you are a legal American citizen, do you have any fears of being deported to a foreign nation like is being implied over on the other news segment on CNN from Caitlin Collins? My answer is no. You can leave your comments down below how you feel about that. But this is another topic in which Republicans are winning in: defunding Harvard.
Signing executive orders saying, investigate this person, take away this tax-exempt status because I don't like this entity. How is that not weaponization, Scott?
Well, I totally disagree with the characterization of it. I think Trump supporters and the people who put him in office would say that he's not turning the government into a weapon. He's turning it into a shield. He's shielding the American people from illegal immigration. He's shielding the American people from having their tax dollars used for ridiculous purposes. All of these things that you mentioned, you may call them weaponization, but a lot of people would say we need a shield against a lot of these bad actors and bad institutions.
You didn't address any of the things that I actually did bring up. I mean, he's saying to American universities, you need to admit a certain number of conservatives. I'll
address the universities.
Or you will lose your tax-exempt status. He is saying that he signed an executive order in the White House saying, investigate 2 individuals who told the truth about the last election and criticized me publicly. That is weaponization.
Regarding the universities, first of all, he's creating, I think, a shield for the Jewish students on campus who have been the victim of horrible anti-Semitism. And he's saying to these universities, you cannot simply screen out all viewpoints that don't adhere to your anti-Western civilization
absolutely
worldview.
No one is doing that.
Absolutely they are.
No, they're not.
What
evidence do you have that they're
I've been on a college campus recently, and I can certainly use my eyes and ears. These are hotbeds of anti-American and anti-Western civilization activity, and everybody knows it. And there's no dissent on these campuses.
Oh, so wait, now MAGA wants DEI.
Everyone's afraid.
Now they want to be excluded. Like, now they want affirmative action for them. Like, that's cool.
So
now.
You admit that you want universities to exclude everyone but the radical
because
left.
There's no proof that they're actually being excluded. Because there isn't.
96% of contributions from Harvard faculty went to Democrats. What else you got?
Okay, so you talking about contribution. I'm talking about
what people's political viewpoints are.
Who is teaching people? So if they were such
I know.
a weapon,
I used to teach there. Believe me.
Okay, so clearly you used to teach there, right?
Yeah, I was treated like an exotic zoo animal. Trust me.
Oh, I'm sure.
The faculty is not conservative. Believe me.
Oh, okay. So at Harvard, I just imagine all of these conservative politicians that go there. They go there because they don't feel welcome. They just go there to go there.
If you're trying to come on here tonight and argue that Harvard is a hotbed of conservatism,
I'm not. I'm just saying that they're not. So are we going to do the same thing at Baylor? Are we going to do the same thing at Liberty? Are we going to invite more liberal thought to those universities?
I think if public universities or any university taking public funds is violating the civil rights of Jewish students or actively screening out conservatives and conservative viewpoints, we need to have a conversation.
Or what about...
I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea Scott Jennings taught at Harvard. I mean, of course he taught at Harvard, and I think this is what this news anchor was thinking, like, haha, I got him. And Scott's like, nah, actually, I did teach at Harvard, and they're definitely mostly a Democrat institute, and they're getting federal funding, thus we should cut the funding. One thing I want to point out is, look, even a lot of Democrats don't even care about this, because Democrats don't like the billionaires, the elites, well, some of them do, but most of them don't, supposedly. And Republicans as well are like, why are we giving all of this public funding to Harvard? So this was another massive win for Donald Trump. And again, this really flips the narrative on Democrats who are trying to stick up for elite institutes who are very one-sided in their bias rating as far as how they teach or who they teach. This is problematic. And once again, the Trump administration was able to identify the majority of Americans will like this policy. So let's just go with it.
Before you go, how do you think the Harvard situation resolves itself, if at all?
Look, I'm looking for the off-ramp here for the Trump administration. People are asking around the country, why are we better off to cut research on cancer, on Alzheimer's, on tuberculosis? You know, that's where this money goes. These are research grants, and these are research grants. They weren't given out politically. They were given out to people who are doing work that helps keep us all safer and healthier. We are not better and stronger because Donald Trump wakes up one day and decides he wants to cut that research. So I think I'm actually very proud of Harvard to stand up and say, we're not going to do that.
But here's the thing. Then how should they be held accountable for failing to protect civil rights of Jewish students? And also, you know, this question about the tax-exempt status, which there are reports that he's trying to take away for political entity, there's ample evidence that a lot of the faculty that they employ are progressive and is increasingly political.
So if you believe that, go to court. Go to court. You start the process, and you know what? Instead of just mouthing off about what you think is happening, actually present some evidence. And let's look at the evidence. Let's let the other side come in and question that evidence. But you don't just get to lip off and say, and therefore the king gets to wave his magic wand and say, off with your head.
Doesn't the government determine where federal tax dollars go? And so they're allowed to decide.
Do you think they have a big bushel basket of money and they just say, you, good looking, you will have money. You, not so good looking, you're going to have to go hungry for a while. That's not how it works. Let's just do Con Law 101, and that is Congress writes those laws and allocates that money. The administration's job is to enforce those laws and spend that money the way the law tells them. And if they fail to do that, Part 3 is the courts are the ones who step in and enforce the law. That's the three parts.
Unless you defy or find probable cause.
Alright, if you are still watching this video, I really appreciate it. I know it can sometimes be hard to follow Elizabeth Warren, but the reason why I wanted to play that clip is everything she is saying, for the most part, Republicans and the majority of Americans, and there definitely is a silent majority who won't say anything on the left-leaning spectrum or the independent spectrum, the majority of Americans do support Donald Trump and every single thing Elizabeth Warren is saying. Warren is saying that, like, you know, Donald Trump's a king, or, you know, she's standing up for Harvard. And I understand Harvard is supposed to be this private Ivy League institute, but if they're getting federal public funding that you and me are paying for, by the way, and it's like Elizabeth Warren doesn't understand this, we're obviously going to be a little upset if they are predominantly major on the left-leaning side, and, you know, that is not fair that all of those kids are now going to come out of that institute and they're just going to be against what we have to say as Republicans or conservatives. That's not cool. And again, Elizabeth Warren, oh boy, I think she has a rude awakening in the midterms or the next time she's up for election. Let's see what happens with that. But anyway, thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I really appreciate it. And make sure you guys go check out our sponsor. I wouldn't have anything without you guys tuning into these videos, leaving your comments and likes. Thank you so much. God bless, and we'll see you all later.